Hello, everyone. I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby, and here with me is Ai-Ling Lee, sound designer for Barbie. And I just love the level of camp that you were able to achieve in this film. At one point, it even sounded like you had some maybe like Monty Python coconut effects going on for the Ken's horses. And I'm curious, what was your kind of favorite campy sound effect that you were able to achieve?
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for bringing that up, and glad you caught that. Ironically, I think that's my favorite. Um, so basically, later on in the movie, after the Can's beach fight, and as the group of Cans were galloping back to Barbie Land, we did like an homage to Monty Python's, like using like coconut clubs, coconut shell as like horse gallop clubs for it. Um, and yeah, that's one of the fun things about doing the design work for this film, because I feel we had to touch on like different themes, and one of it is like for the comedy of it, for sound to help it. It kind of lends itself, in tone sometimes, for us to use some of these like stereotypical sounds that, classic sounds that typically like sound designers may kind of try to shy away from, but it just like it worked well, ironically, for to help amp up the humor and some of these ridiculous moments, like classic red tail hawk sound, or like the classic dolphin chatter when during the one of those world travel montage at the boat. um so we could like sneak in a bit of these like cartoony kind of vibe in it. um
Yeah. It's interesting because, you're talking about sounds that many designers may try to shy away from, like, because this kind of campy tone, to me, I feel like is not super common in contemporary movies these days. So what for you, what was like a sign that you were getting the tone right? How did you, land on that specific tone?
we did a lot of explorations and reviewing back and forth with Greta and Nick Hui, the picture editor. So say like when Margot Barbie kind of like sat on the grass, like she kind of like took, she was like pissed, like upset that like the Kens were running Barbie Land, and she kind of like plops down to the grass and like did this like slow-mo like tree falling move. um uh, Part of it is like, as much as like we want to add a lot of like style, typically we want to add more like obvious, more stylistic sounds to it, but for this it's like kind of like anything that could help make it more pathetic, in terms of sound wise. So like the plot may be, because beforehand, anything that the Barbies make, the sounds that they make even in Barbie Land are like light, airy, pleasant, happy. And then for that moment, we had to, we went into like some, more like pathetic, as in like for that moment would be more ploppy and maybe a little heavier, um just because reality is sinking into her world. That kind of like helped it. And or like the comedic timing, like when Ken Gosling was sliding down, doing the slow slide off this Humvee, the hood of the Humvee, at the Mojo Dojo Casa house. The amount of time that like Nick and Greta created, it helped us, allowed us to like add like a super unnaturally awkwardly long plastic squeal down. Yeah, so yeah, this just
Well,
little bits of it. Yeah.
yeah, speaking of plastic, I mean, basically everything in Barbie world is, or Barbie land is plastic. So how does working with that material and this kind of like artificial world, how does that affect how you're creating the sound effects for that space?
Yeah. It's one of the first things that like, early conversations with Greta, she brought up, because in Barbie Land nothing is alive. It's an interior world, so there's like no wind, no water, no even the trees, they don't have real leaves to like create this like sound, which kind of later on helped out for the real world part as in terms of soundscape. But for us, because like everything is still important to Greta that everything sounds pleasant and inviting. So we try to use non-literal sounds for the world as much as we can in Barbie Land, and also the things that they use. So say, when since there's no water, when Barbie takes a shower, we don't see water, and when she spits, we don't see water either. So, but to still make it pleasant, we kind of like added like for the shower, we added a rain stick kind of sound. So it still has this full watery, but artificially realistic vibe. And for the plastic, it's just little touches that are fun, like say at one moment when early on in the film in Malibu Beach, when like Gosling Ken is like confronting Sumu Ken about bitching off, he kind of like pushed another can away, and he kind of touched the ice cream on the cone. So we added like a little like plastic thunk kind of sound that normally you won't really hear in a regular film. And say, when they do the crash, when the car was flipping through during the beginning of the world travel montage, the Indigo Girls song were playing, and then the Corvette would kind of flip up and like kind of land. And it's important also to Greta that like even though it's a pretty drastic moment, it shouldn't sound like danger. So we kind of like used, recorded and a lot of like big plastic drop kind of sound, anything that has like resonance to help with it. And then like, just to help with the playfulness of Barbie Land, also we tried to sprinkle in like vocal imitated sounds throughout Barbie Land. So it's almost like if a human were to play with these Barbies and Kens and the sounds that they may make. So say for example, like when Alan was fighting with the construction cans, and the kicks and punches we kind of layered with beatboxer vocals. And say when like Gosling Ken ran towards the giant wave, again, no water there, but as he bounces off and he's flying through the air, we added like a vocal imitating like air research sound, like a yeah, even for like plane bys, we were asked like, if you see a plane, just don't just add like a regular like low end like jet plane going by. It should sound light and pleasant and fun, so we added, so instead of that we used like wind and like a vocal like imitating like a plane and a little like harmonica sound under it. Yeah, so a lot of it's like coming up with like different ways to come up with slightly familiar sounds, but it shouldn't be that different that it would take the audience out of it. So, even say like the birds, because nothing's alive in Barbie Land. So we tried to say a lot of the bird chirps that you hear, they are not recordings of real birds. They are we kind of created it by because I would have this a few of these water-filled clay whistles. You blow into them, and it would just kind of emulate these kind of bird chirps that's somewhat similar to those like old Disney animation, like those bluebird calls.
Well, the Kens have, I think, one of my favorite moments in the movie with their big musical number. And the whole thing, I kept thinking this while I was watching it, that a lot of it feels like has the feel of musical theater to it. I kept thinking it could be adapted to the stage very easily. Were there kind of musical theater touchstones that you used in the sound design?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's like this film, yeah, like as you mentioned, it's true. It's almost like a musical, and there's so like many songs that's like uniquely written for each scene. And for us, um, the trick about it is like to working around the music, the vocals, and a lot of the clever dialogue. But is to be very selective. It's kind of like early on, like Greta, she mentioned, one of the things that she wanted is like almost like to feel it like a 50s musical, like Singing in the Rain, or she, it's not exactly musical per se, like some films from like Jacques Tati. So it's being very purposeful in the type of sounds and when we play them. And so say the Cannes beach battle sequence during the
Yeah.
Cannes song. That's like so many things that's going on. And even though, they kind of in the script, I think Greta and Noah kind of describe it as like Saving Private Ryan, the Omaha beach landing scene, but with toys. So they're like using like frisbees and tennis rackets, toy arrows, and inflatables to fight. So in terms of sound design wise, even though we kind of created it with like silly sounds and like wimpy male fight walla, like high pitched screams and like whining sounds. That's like not what you expect from macho guys fighting. But despite the fact that we kind of created the full layer of it, the thing about it is the music is the main driver of the scene. So in the sound mix, we no, Kevin O'Connell and I, we kind of felt like we couldn't quite focus and follow what is happening. And so, the trick about it is like is in a lot of musicals, is to pare things down, sound design wise. So we kind of focus only play things that what the main characters are doing, and and just the occasional like close up things, that objects that would fly by. So, and also of course the pitch of it, that it shouldn't fight against the song. And sometimes we'll get a lot of click tracks from the music editor, so we can do the effects in somewhat in time to the music, because just being human, I guess most of us kind of catch up on things that kind of have a musical rhythm. So it all goes hand in hand together.
Yeah. Well, you certainly know your way around musical rhythms because you're a four-time Oscar nominee. You're double nominated in sound editing and sound mixing for both La La Land, the musical, and First Man. And with La La Land, you had some, your nominations were kind of big firsts there, because I believe you were the first Asian woman nominated for sound mixing, and you and your partner Mildred Morgan were the first all-women team for sound editing. What was that like as your first time up at the Oscars with two nominations and kind of these two momentous nominations?
Oh, it was no, it was definitely like a big surprise, and an incredible honor. Um, we didn't, really, when we worked on the film, we thought it was really, we really enjoyed working on the film. It really, connected us. We really connect to the film. And but it was just like such a pleasure and surprise to see how, to share it with the world, and then to realize like, it's actually, people, how much people love the film, and to be able to be, recognized for the work that we did, even though that's like a lot of great works out there. from everyone else on other films. I know it was quite a blessing, and definitely very memorable. And uh, yeah, didn't quite expect the whole, like, the statistic part of it, but
Right.
yeah, it was definitely a joy, and yeah, really appreciated everyone's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, great moments. And people are really responding to Barbie in a huge way too. I mean, it drew people into the theaters in numbers that frankly, are very hard to get these days for movies. And it became a big social thing. I know I went with, my friends in our big pink outfits.
Oh,
And
cool.
so what was it like on your end after working on this and then watching the movie blow up in this enormous way?
Yeah, I mean, working on the film, it was just so unique because, like, love the script from the beginning, and working with Greta and everyone was so, um so pleasant, and love, like, so collaborative with them, in terms of, like, she's so open to ideas and trying things out. And but all along the way, we thought, we really, same thing, kind of similar, like La La Land, I guess. You kind of like working on it, and you're like, this is great, I really like it. And there's no one day that you're like, oh, I'm a little tired of it. Like, there's always like something new I would see, or we would keep repeating the dialogue lines and stuff. But we didn't, I mean, personally for me, I was kind of like taken by surprise about, like, the reception that it got, and then going to the movie theaters and seeing, like, it's all packed and people were dressed up like you guys, and day and night at the movie theater is packed, and it's almost like Christmas morning, on like a regular Saturday, I guess. And like, as the movie goes on, because there's some humor stuff, so you hear like the laughters, and like some jokes like work, great, and applauding after America's speech, and then hearing some, like, people crying at the end, some sobbing, sorry. So I don't know, I just feel like the film, like Greta, Noah, Nick, everyone, like, and the whole crew, I think, yeah, it was great. It was like, never, like, it's even on repeat watch, I find something new. So it was just yeah, I'm really glad and happy that it kind of helped, take the movies back, and experiencing films in a theater as a group, and kind of, it's kind of like, it's one of the reasons why I really enjoy working on films, is because love going to the movies, and like to watch it in the dark room with, like, and experience it with, like, a bunch of, like, strangers, and feeling the same way about how the story can take you. So
It's great to have that communal experience back. Thank you so
yeah.
much, Eileen, for sitting down and chatting with me. For everyone
Oh,
who's watching out there, subscribe to Gold Derby. Make sure you keep up with us this season. And thank you once again. Congratulations on Barbie.
oh, thank you.